My friends, let me begin with a truth that may sound uncomfortable. Most people will never succeed in life. Not because they lack the ability, not because they are less intelligent, and certainly not because God forgot about them. No. They fail because they stop believing, they stop trying, and they stop growing. Think of a seed. Within that seed is a forest waiting to be born. But if the seed remains hidden in a drawer, untouched, it will never fulfill its destiny. It is not the lack of potential that kills the seed. It is the lack of planting, the lack of risk, the lack of process. Many of us live like that seed, full of potential, but afraid of the soil. I remember meeting a woman who worked 2 jobs, raised 3 children, and studied at night. Everyone told her it was impossible. But she looked at her little children and said, "I cannot leave them with excuses. I must leave them with an example." Today, those children are doctors and entrepreneurs. Ordinary people, my friends, doing extraordinary things because she refused to let fear become her prison. So why do most people never succeed? Because they mistake comfort for safety. They choose the predictable over the possible. They wait for the perfect moment, when in reality, the perfect moment is always now. Success is not about waiting for doors to open. It is about knocking until your knuckles bleed, and if no door opens, building your own. Change is never easy. Perseverance is never painless. But history is filled with men and women who turned their pain into power. From farmers who became leaders, from refugees who became inventors, from the broken who became healers. What separates them from the rest is not luck, but responsibility. They took ownership of their lives. And that, my friends, is the call before us today, to stop blaming, to stop waiting, and to stop doubting. You are carrying greatness, but greatness will demand courage. Let me leave you with this. The graveyard is full of unrealized dreams, unwritten books, unsung songs, and unbuilt businesses. Do not add your name to that list. Refuse to die full, de-empty. Pour out everything God placed in you while you are alive, because the truth is simple. You were not born to blend in. You were born to stand out. So rise up, take responsibility, embrace change, and persevere through the storms. For the world is waiting not for another excuse, but for your example. And remember this, success is not a destiny. It is a decision. Make that decision today. My friends, let me take you on a journey of thought. Imagine walking through a massive field, endless in every direction. Beneath your feet, hidden in the soil, are countless seeds. Each one of those seeds carries within it the possibility of becoming a towering tree, bearing fruit, giving shade, sustaining life. But here's the question: what happens if those seeds never leave the packet? What happens if they are never planted? They remain seeds full of promise, but empty of fulfillment. That is the tragedy of human potential. Potential is not a guarantee. It is simply capacity. It is unused strength, untapped talent, dormant vision. And just like the seed, potential requires action before it can ever become reality. The sad truth is this: most people never plant the seed of their own lives. They dream, they imagine, they talk about what they could do, what they might do, but they never take the step. And potential without action is nothing more than imagination trapped in chains. Think about the world we live in. Every great invention, every business, every song, every breakthrough once lived inside someone's mind as invisible potential. But those who succeeded were the ones who dared to act. They planted their seed even in rocky soil, even in seasons of uncertainty, even when no one believed in them. I once met a young man who had an extraordinary gift for drawing. He would fill notebooks with sketches that looked like they had come from the hands of a master. But when I asked him what he planned to do with his talent, he said, "Maybe one day, when things are better, when I have more time, when I have more money." And there it was, the seed still in the packet, waiting for the perfect conditions. But let me tell you something: the soil will never be perfect, the weather will never be predictable, and the conditions will never be ideal. Action is not about waiting for the right season. It is about planting in faith, trusting that growth will come if you simply begin. Potential is wasted not because people lack ability, but because they lack the courage to move. Fear has robbed more dreams than failure ever has. People fear rejection, they fear judgment, they fear making mistakes. And so they settle. They trade destiny for comfort. They bury their seed where no one can see it, convincing themselves that it is safer hidden than risked. But my friends, what good is a seed that never becomes a tree? What good is a dream that never becomes a reality? Let me give you an example from history. Thomas Edison, the man who gave the world the light bulb, failed over 1,000 times before he succeeded. Imagine if he had stopped after the first failure, or the 10th, or the 100th. We would still be in darkness. He understood something vital, that the seed of invention demanded action, repeated, relentless, determined action. He was not in love with the idea of his potential. He was committed to the process of turning it into reality. And this applies not just to inventors and pioneers, but to every ordinary person. A mother who sacrifices her comfort to raise strong children is planting her seed. A student who stays up late studying while others sleep is planting his seed. A worker who shows up early, learns more than required, and pushes beyond the minimum is planting her seed. Action transforms potential into purpose. But here's the danger when potential is wasted. It doesn't disappear. It becomes regret. And regret is the heaviest burden a human heart can carry. The graveyards of the world are filled with books never written, businesses never started, songs never sung, and ideas never expressed. The wealthiest place on earth is not the banks, not the oil fields, not the diamond mines. It is the cemetery, because that is where untapped potential lies, buried forever. So I ask you today, what seed are you holding? What dream are you hiding? What gift are you delaying? Do not allow fear, procrastination, or the illusion of the perfect time to rob you of your destiny. Plant your seed, act on your vision, and give your potential the chance to grow. Because potential, my friends, is never enough on its own. Without action, it dies in silence. With action, it has the power to change the world. Let me share something with you that might shake the way you see life. Comfort is not your friend. Comfort is silent, gentle, and it feels safe. But comfort is also the very thing that kills more dreams than failure ever will. Comfort has destroyed more destinies than opposition, more futures than poverty, more visions than lack of opportunity. Why? Because comfort convinces you that where you are is enough, even when deep down you know you were made for more. Think about it. Comfort is that voice that says, don't push too hard, don't take the risk, don't go the extra mile. Comfort whispers, why try when you can stay where you are? Why sacrifice when you can relax? Why change when you can accept things as they are? And before you know it, years pass, time slips away, and you realize that comfort has kept you in the same place, repeating the same routines, producing the same results. I once spoke with a man who worked at the same job for over 20 years. He told me that when he was younger, he dreamed of starting his own company, dreaming of building something that would create opportunities for others. He had the skills, the connections, even the ideas, but he never moved. Why? Because the paycheck was steady, because the routine was predictable, because he was comfortable. Now, in his later years, his eyes filled with regret as he said, I stayed where it was safe, but I never became who I was supposed to be. My friends, comfort can feel like safety, but it is actually captivity. It is a cage decorated to look like freedom. You may not see the bars, but they are there, bars made of excuses, fear, and routine. And the tragedy is that many live their entire lives inside that cage, never realizing they locked themselves in. Destiny requires discomfort. Growth demands stretching. Progress requires sacrifice. Think of an athlete training for the Olympics. While others sleep, he is awake at dawn, running, sweating, pushing his body to the edge. He denies himself comfort for years because he understands that destiny cannot be reached on the pillow of ease. Think of a mother who sacrifices her own dreams so her children can reach theirs. She endures discomfort every single day, yet her sacrifice becomes the soil in which her family's future grows. Even nature teaches us this truth. A butterfly cannot emerge unless it struggles out of the cocoon. The very act of breaking free builds the strength it needs to fly. If the process were made easy, the butterfly would die in weakness. In the same way, if life were always easy, if there were no struggle, no challenge, no discomfort, you would never develop the strength required for your destiny. Comfort kills destiny because it deceives you into believing that today's ease is more valuable than tomorrow's greatness. It makes you trade the eternal for the temporary, the extraordinary for the ordinary. It makes you believe that mediocrity is acceptable, that survival is enough, that dreaming is childish. But you and I know that deep inside there is something greater calling out. A vision, a purpose, a destiny that cannot be fulfilled as long as you are lying in the arms of comfort. I think of men and women who changed the course of history. Leaders who stood up against injustice. Inventors who refused to quit. Pioneers who dared to go where no one had gone before. None of them achieved destiny from a place of comfort. They were rejected, misunderstood, criticized, and even ridiculed. Yet they chose the path of discomfort because they understood that ease today will cost you tomorrow. And so when you feel the pull of comfort saying, rest, relax, settle down, don't try too hard, remember this: comfort is not protecting you, it is stealing from you. It is robbing you of the future you were created to live. It is silencing the greatness within you before it ever has a chance to speak. Comfort kills destiny because it convinces you to quit before you even begin. The question is not whether you have potential. The question is whether you are willing to step out of the familiar, to embrace discomfort, to walk the hard road that leads to destiny. Because everything you dream of, everything you were created to become, is waiting for you on the other side of comfort. There comes a point in life when you must look in the mirror and realize that no one else is coming to rescue you. Not your parents, not your friends, not your government, not your boss. You are responsible for your life. Responsibility is the dividing line between those who succeed and those who settle. It is the difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Until you take ownership of your choices, your actions, your growth, and your future, you will remain at the mercy of circumstances. But the moment you stand up and say, "This is my life and I will account for it," that is the moment everything begins to change. Responsibility is not about blame, it is about ownership. Many people spend their lives pointing fingers, blaming the economy, blaming their family, blaming their background, blaming luck, blaming the system. But let me tell you something: blame is easy, responsibility is hard. And it is that difficulty that makes responsibility the key to success. Because once you accept responsibility, you stop waiting for others to change and you begin to change yourself. I once met a young man who grew up in poverty. His father abandoned the family, his mother struggled to feed him, and he was surrounded by crime. By all accounts, he had every reason to fail, every reason to say, "Life dealt me a bad hand, so I cannot succeed." But one day he said something powerful: "I may not be responsible for how I was born, but I am responsible for how I will die." That decision to take ownership became the turning point of his life. He studied relentlessly, worked multiple jobs, refused to be defined by his environment, and eventually became a successful entrepreneur. What changed his story was not luck, but responsibility. Responsibility means realizing that your future is shaped by the decisions you make today. It means refusing to live as a victim, even when life has been unfair, because life will be unfair. Circumstances will not always be kind, but responsibility says, "I will not let my pain become my prison. I will not let my history dictate my destiny. I will rise above it." There's a story of a farmer who lost everything in a storm: his home, his crops, his livelihood. The neighbors pitied him, expecting him to give up, to complain, to wallow in despair. But instead, he went out into the ruined fields, picked up his tools, and began to clear the debris. When asked why he was working when everything was destroyed, he said, "The storm was not my fault, but rebuilding is my responsibility." That farmer understood a truth many ignore. You may not control what happens to you, but you always control how you respond, and in that response lies the seed of success. Responsibility demands discipline. It demands that you wake up early when you feel like sleeping, that you save when you feel like spending, that you study when you feel like playing, that you stay consistent when others quit. It means doing the things no one applauds today so that you can live the life others admire tomorrow. Responsibility means you stop waiting for motivation and start moving with determination. Some people dream of success as though it will come overnight. But success is never an accident. It is the result of choices, sacrifices, and persistent effort. When you see a great leader, an accomplished artist, a wealthy entrepreneur, or a renowned scientist, you are seeing the fruit of responsibility. You are seeing years of decisions, often unseen, often difficult, often lonely. Responsibility is the hidden engine of visible success. Think of a musician. People clap when they hear the song, but they did not see the hours of practice, the sore fingers, the failed attempts, the relentless training. That is my responsibility. Think of a student who graduates top of their class. People admire the achievement, but they did not see the sleepless nights, the discipline, the hours of study when friends were out having fun. That is my responsibility. Think of parents who raise successful children. People celebrate the outcome, but they do not see the sacrifices, the hard choices, the nights spent working and the mornings spent teaching. That too is responsibility. And this is why responsibility separates those who wish from those who achieve. Many people wish to succeed. Few are willing to accept the responsibility that comes with it. Responsibility requires that you own your failures as much as your victories. It requires that you stop making excuses and start making progress. It requires that you stop waiting for someone else to fix your life and decide to build it yourself. Responsibility is the key to success because it forces you to confront reality. It strips away the illusions, the excuses, the fantasies, and it leaves you with one undeniable truth: your life is in your hands. And though others can help, though others can support, though others can guide, ultimately, the one who must take the step, the one who must make the choice, the one who must keep going is you. There is something about pain that every human being understands. Pain does not ask for permission. It arrives uninvited, and it often overstays its welcome. It shows up in failure, in betrayal, in disappointment, in loss, in rejection. Pain is the universal language of humanity. But here's the truth most people never realize: a pain is not meant to destroy you. Pain is meant to shape you. The difference between those who succeed and those who quit is not the absence of pain, but the decision to persevere through it. Perseverance is what transforms pain into power. Think of gold. In its raw form, gold is hidden, covered in dirt and impurities. It only becomes valuable when it passes through fire. The heat burns away what is unnecessary and reveals the beauty within. Your life is the same. Pain is the fire that tests you, but perseverance is the decision to stay in the process until your true strength shines through. Many people run from the fire. They avoid the heat. They give up the moment it becomes uncomfortable. And that is why they never discover the power that was waiting on the other side of their pain. I once knew a man who lost his job after decades of service. He had a family to feed, bills to pay, and no plan B. For weeks he was devastated, crushed under the weight of disappointment. But then he made a choice. He decided that his pain would not be the end of his story. He started a small business with the little savings he had left, worked tirelessly day and night, faced rejection after rejection, but he kept going. Years later, that same man became the owner of a thriving company. His pain pushed him into his purpose, and his perseverance turned tragedy into triumph. Perseverance does not mean the absence of struggle. In fact, perseverance assumes struggle. It means continuing when your body is tired, when your mind is screaming for relief, when your heart feels heavy. It means waking up one more time, trying one more time, believing one more time. Perseverance is the refusal to let pain have the final word. History is filled with examples of men and women who discovered this truth. Nelson Mandela endured 27 years in prison, separated from his family, branded as a criminal, but he persevered. And when he walked out of that cell, he carried not bitterness but vision, not revenge but leadership. His pain became the very fuel that gave him the strength to lead a nation into reconciliation. Perseverance turned his suffering into power that reshaped history. Even in everyday life, we see this principle. A student who struggles with failure but keeps studying eventually passes the exam. A parent who sacrifices sleep and comfort to provide for their children eventually sees their family thrive. An athlete who pushes through injury and setbacks eventually lifts the trophy. Success is not a straight road. It is a path filled with obstacles. But every obstacle is also an opportunity for perseverance to do its work. Pain, when embraced with perseverance, teaches lessons that ease never could. It teaches patience, resilience, humility, and strength. Pain reveals who you truly are when everything else is stripped away. And perseverance gives you the courage to keep moving even when nothing seems to be working. Many people look at those who succeed and think they were lucky or privileged or simply talented. But what they do not see are the countless moments of pain, of rejection, of failure, where perseverance became the bridge to success. Let me tell you, the greatest victories in life often come after the greatest struggles. The moment you feel like quitting is often the moment you are closest to the breakthrough. Pain presses you to the ground, but perseverance lifts you back up. Pain shouts that it's over, but perseverance whispers, not yet. Pain will test your limits, but perseverance will expand them. I remember hearing the story of a young woman who dreamed of becoming a doctor. She failed her entrance exams not once, not twice, but 3 times. Each time, she faced shame, criticism, and doubt, even from her own family, but she refused to quit. She kept studying, kept trying, kept believing. On her 4th attempt, she passed. Today, she saves lives daily because she understands that failure is not final if you persevere. Her pain could have broken her, but her perseverance transformed it into the very power that made her unstoppable. Perseverance is not glamorous. It is not loud. It is often quiet, lonely, and hidden from the spotlight. But it is in those unseen moments when no one is watching, when no one is applauding, when no one is encouraging, that perseverance is building the muscle of greatness. And when the moment comes, when the opportunity finally arrives, the one who persevered is ready, stronger, wiser, and unshakable. There is a sobering truth I must share with you today. The wealthiest place on earth is not the oil fields of the Middle East. It is not the diamond mines of Africa. It is not the banks of Wall Street. The wealthiest place on earth is the graveyard, because in the graveyard lie dreams that were never fulfilled, books that were never written, songs that were never sung, businesses that were never started, inventions that were never shared, and potential that was never realized. People died full of ideas, full of visions, full of possibilities, but they never released them into the world. Don't die full. De-empty. Empty yourself of everything God placed inside of you. Every idea, every gift, every dream, every talent, pour it out while you are alive. Because the saddest tragedy is not death itself. It is dying with something still locked inside you that the world desperately needed. Think about it. How many people spend their entire lives saying, one day I will start that business. One day I will write that book. One day I will share my story. One day I will try. But one day becomes someday, and someday becomes never. And the clock keeps ticking. Life does not wait. Time does not pause. Before they realize it, their days are gone, their chances are gone, and their potential is buried with them. I once spoke with a man who had spent decades in the same job. He confessed to me that when he was young, he dreamed of being an architect. He had the talent, he had the passion, but he never pursued it because he was afraid to fail. Instead, he settled for something safe. And now, in his older years, his eyes filled with tears as he said, I never built anything, not because I couldn't, but because I didn't. That is the pain of dying full. Dying empty does not mean living without challenges. It does not mean everything you try will succeed. It means you refuse to hold back what is inside of you. It means you live with such urgency that fear cannot paralyze you, procrastination cannot delay you, and excuses cannot stop you. It means that when you leave this world, there will be nothing left inside you that was meant to bless others. Think of an orange. The value of the orange is not in its peel, it is in the juice inside. But the only way to get the juice is to squeeze it. Life will squeeze you. Challenges will press you. Pain will stretch you. But that process is what draws out what is inside of you. Do not resist it. Do not hide from it. Allow life to pull from you every gift, every lesson, every contribution, until you have poured out everything you were given. History is filled with men and women who understood this truth. They were not perfect, they were not flawless, but they gave everything they had. They refused to leave the earth holding onto their gifts. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. He could have remained silent in the face of injustice, but he poured himself out until his very last breath. Think of inventors, artists, leaders, teachers, parents, ordinary people who lived extraordinary lives because they refused to bury their potential. And here is something important. Dying empty is not just about grand achievements that make headlines. It is also about the small, consistent contributions that shape lives. The teacher who invests in her students every day, pouring her energy into their growth, is dying empty. The father who works hard to provide, who teaches his children values and discipline, is dying empty. The nurse who goes beyond the call of duty to care for her patients is dying empty. You do not need fame or recognition to live a life of significance. You simply need to give what you have, wherever you are, with everything in you. The tragedy of dying full is that it robs not only you but the world. The song you never sang could have healed someone's heart. The book you never wrote could have inspired a generation. The idea you never shared could have solved a problem that others are still struggling with. The wisdom you never spoke could have guided someone out of darkness. When you die full, the world loses what it never had the chance to receive. So live with urgency. Wake up every day and ask yourself, what can I give today? What part of my potential can I release? What dream can I pursue? Stop waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment will never come. Stop waiting until you feel ready, because readiness is born in action, not in hesitation. Stop saying someday and start saying today. Don't die with your music still inside you. Don't die with your vision trapped in your mind. Don't die with your gifts still locked in your heart. Pour yourself out now while you are alive. While you still have breath, while you still have time, because the world does not need the version of you that settles. The world needs the version of you that is courageous enough to release everything within. My friends, we have walked through truths that cannot be ignored. We have seen that potential is wasted without action, that comfort is a silent enemy that kills destiny, that responsibility is the key that unlocks success, that perseverance transforms pain into power, and that the greatest tragedy is to die full instead of empty. Every one of us is standing at a crossroads today. On one side is the path of excuses, of delay, of comfort, of wasted potential. On the other side is the path of courage, responsibility, perseverance, and sacrifice, the path that leads to fulfillment, impact, and legacy. The choice is yours. Do not wait for tomorrow, because tomorrow is not promised. Do not settle for comfort, because comfort will rob you of greatness. Do not allow fear to silence you, because fear will bury your future. Stand up, take ownership, embrace the process, and release everything inside of you. The world is waiting for your contribution. The next generation is depending on your example, and your Creator has entrusted you with gifts too valuable to remain hidden. So rise, act, give, build, endure, and live in such a way that when your time is done, you can say with confidence, I have poured out everything within me. I did not die full, I died empty.